Well, good morning, Facebook, and hello, Larry. How are you?
I'm good, Bill. How are you? It's great to be with you.
I am really well. It is great to have you. I wish we lived closer because I know that we would hang out and share coffee and bourbon and golf, maybe. And I don't know. Just I would love to hang out with you, and I regret that we live so far apart, and particularly now in a pandemic environment. Right? It probably makes that even less likely than it would have been before. But I am so grateful that we have the opportunity to do things like this. And I know that people that are viewing you now live and may have not been exposed to you are going to be encouraged and sharpened and challenged. And I can tell you that the vast majority of my clients have heard of your book, man. I recommend that book as my very favorite real estate book that 100% applies to the mortgage industry. So, as I said to you before the call, I said, I think you're more of a real estate guy that also serves the mortgage community. I'm more of a mortgage guy that also serves the real estate community. So the beauty of that is you and I fit well together as a result of that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, and the last thing I'll say, this is obvious to people viewing us right now, but there's a guy that I follow. I don't know if you know Rourke Denver, but he's a retired Navy SEAL commander, and you would actually really enjoy his stuff. He's got a video he puts out about once a month called Commander's Coffee, and Rourke is probably now, I don't know, I could only get in trouble, like never make a mistake with a Navy SEAL, but I'm gonna guess maybe he's about 50, right? He could kill me with a spoon, but he's got the gray beard and he's lost his hair, and he's living in the mountains somewhere, and he just he's just got so much great wisdom. But there was a recent episode where he said you got to listen to the graybeards. So he said in the Navy they call them the graybeards, right? And I don't know, man. If you look at our screen here, I think we got a couple of graybeards.
I would definitely qualify. This is my 48th year in real estate.
Come on. Oh my goodness. Well, wow, what a shift, what a change. So look, in the spirit of, what the podcast is all about is being all in, and there's all kinds of different examples of that, but I am always so intrigued by those that are all in, whether they're athletes, we just saw this with Tom Brady, or if they're business people or authors like yourself or coaches like me, or a little of both, I guess, in both of our roles there. You also coach, and I've also written a book, but those that are all in, they're just wired differently. And I find that a really interesting template in real estate, Larry, for this reason. I've been in the real estate business for about 30 years, maybe a little more than that, maybe 35. And I just remember early on realizing that, oh my goodness, there's two completely different camps in this business. There's the people that have a real estate license and they wear a name tag and they dabble. They just dabble. They have another life. If they stub their toe on a listing or a buyer, they do a deal. And then there are those
hobbyists.
Right, exactly. They're hobbyists. And look, they're not inherently bad or evil people. They just have a different approach. And it just feels to me like there's a shift now, and it's been happening for a while, but now it's exacerbated or exaggerated in this COVID environment. Steve Harney, I think, from Keeping Current Matters, told me years ago, and he says he thinks the percentages are still about the same. He said, I believe in most markets, about 7% of the agents are doing about 93% of the volume. And I just find that to be a shocking number, right? But I would love for you to speak to, with your company, as one of the founders of the group real estate company in Fort Collins, Colorado, I think 200 or so agents, is that right? And
Correct,
six officers or markets there. I know that Real Trends had once said that you were the most productive per person productivity real estate company in the country, and as we said before we started the interview, you said that Steve Mernon had indicated to you that, if not then certainly one of. So there's the reason I go through all of that preamble, and then I'm going to shut up, I promise, is that I want people to know you're coming not from some ethereal philosophical authorship approach. You are in it day in, day out. You're surrounded by people who do phenomenal volume, and there's lessons there. So with all that said, if there's a difference between the hobbyist and those that really serve more families, what are you starting to see right now? What are the big differentiators?
Well, Bill, first of all, I love the term all in. We use a term in our company called 100% full on. It'd be
Nice,
100% full on,
nice.
and similar to all in. And
Yep.
what I've noticed is, I've been in the business, as I mentioned earlier, 48 years. I've seen lots of market cycles, lots of different kinds of markets. One of the things that I've seen consistently, and I'm seeing it right now, is that when you have a market of uncertainty, there's a flight to quality. So,
wow. So good.
Now they realize for example, if you're a buyer and you're wanting to buy a home and you're in a multiple offer market, you better have the best negotiating realtor that you can find. You do not want a hobbyist in this market. You want the best. And so there's
good. Yeah.
There's a flight to quality, and also there's a flight to quality from agents going to the quality firms. They need to be with a firm that's got brand, that's got leadership, that's got marketing, that's got technology. This idea that, well, when the market was really good, I could just hang out and do well.
Yep.
Now there's a real flight to quality all across the board, and we're seeing that. And those quality realtors, those quality companies are all in. I mean,
yeah.
they're 100% full on. That's what they do.
I love that. So what did you say? In times of
uncertainty,
there's a flight to quality.
Yeah.
And I love that. You're so right. And so conversely, right, the other side of that coin is when everything is, lollipops and rainbows, it's like, who cares? I can be over here at Acme Real Estate and show up one day a week, and I do a transaction every 3 months. And I don't know, what does NAR tell us now? Do they say 10 transactions a year for the average realtor? Is that about right?
I think it's back down to around 6.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, the problem with that, go ahead, man.
There's been some studies on this. As many as 50% of the realtors in the United States did not have a transaction last year.
Wow.
Did not have one.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. So I heard a recent news story where somebody said that, I don't know, there was some kind of an issue with a commercial flight, and the pilot was quoted as saying somewhere that, well, we're a little rusty. Really? Really? Like, I mean, it makes sense, right? They weren't, for a long time, they weren't flying. So, thankfully, real estate agents don't have 300 souls behind them, but they do have families attached to them, right? So if I haven't, filled out a deposit receipt in a year, that might be a problem. Anyway, yeah. All right, cool. So if we were going to give people, and again, our two audiences here are going to be mortgage and real estate, and so it's either directly applicable to a realtor, or it's kind of a one-off solution for a mortgage lender, and maybe even applicable for them as well. What are some things that you're seeing right now, Larry? When you talk about a flight to quality and you talk about negotiating as an example, like, I've got to be the person in that multiple offer environment, as well as I do, the biggest complaint that people have right now is that there's no inventory, right? So we're in a low interest rate environment. Everybody seems to think housing is going to lead us out of this recession, and yet they're just as quick to say, but there's no inventory. So let's talk about that a little bit. Where does your mind go there?
Well, there's a couple of things there, Bill, on the low inventory. First of all, we're hopeful. I don't know that some sellers will become comfortable as the pandemic winds down, putting their homes on the market and allowing people to come in their house, strangers to come in and look at their house. And so I think the industry is holding out hope that maybe there will be more listings come on after the pandemic starts to wind down. In the shorter run, there's an extreme shortage in most markets.
Yeah.
And what I'm observing is that I call it the mosh pit market.
The mosh pit market.
Mosh pit. Yeah. As a buyer, you're jumping into the mosh pit.
Totally.
Maybe with 25 offers and all of that. That said, let me share a story about the state of our industry. And
Please.
This is not very positive, but I think it's important.
You bet.
Here's a specific example. In Old Town, Fort Collins, very hot. That's one of the most hot parts of our market. There's a little house that we listed at 417 Park Street. Within 48 hours, we had 15 offers. 5 of them were loan offers. 10 of them were cash offers. Now, If you're a realtor writing one of those offers and you know you're in a mosh pit and you know you're in multiple offers, if you're writing one of the loan offers, those 5 loan offers, what would you want to attach to the contract?
Mm.
You would want to attach an approval letter from your lender.
No doubt. No
right?
doubt. Sure.
There were 2 of the 5 that had that approval letter.
Eesh.
Now, if you wrote one of the 10 cash offers, what would you want to attach? Well, verification of funds. There was 1. Okay.
Wow.
So out of the 15 offers, how many?
Out of what, 10 cash offers? There was
out
1?
Of 10 cash offers, there's only verification of funds. So out of the 15 offers, how many real offers are there? Well, there's 3.
Yeah.
Okay? And so here's the sad part about that. So 12 buyers' hearts were broken.
Mm.
They were frustrated. They maybe even to the point they withdrew from the market because they were tired, worn out.
Sure.
There were 12 realtors who were over at the bar crying in their beer about how tough this market is. Guess what? They were never even in the game.
Right.
These were what I call hobbyist offers. They were not professional offers. Now, what's interesting about that, those 3 legitimate offers, 1 was from our company and 2 were from other companies.
Mm.
But what was interesting is all 3 of them were from realtors who'd been through the ninja training.
Oh, that's pretty fantastic.
Made you feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, there's a lot of frustration in the market right now, but you know what? There's a lot of people that could use some more skills as far as the basics of our business. You know,
oh my goodness,
what you include with the contract, how you negotiate, and so on. So
to that point, let me now do the infomercial because I believe it with all my heart. So whoever you are watching or listening to this, just actually click to Amazon and get a copy of the book because you'll have it tomorrow or the day after. Like you just need to jump into ninja selling. Every great thing that I've ever learned in sales, you either touch on, embellish, or improve in that book, or just completely introduce me to something new that I had never considered. The simple example is Ford. I mean, something I probably learned 30 years ago, but the idea of conversationally opening up dialogue, I call it a relationship can opener, right? With family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And, you know, it's a framework that it doesn't need to be in that order necessarily. It's just a way for you to begin to hear from people what they want, which is a basic tenet I know in ninja selling is, you know, stop selling and start creating relationships and listening, right?
Yep. Bill, let's go down that path a little bit with the Ford, if it's all right with you, and how that's relating right now in this market.
Great.
Very relevant.
Please.
What I'm seeing is a lot of the 100% full-on realtors, the all-in realtors, they are doing a lot of what we call off-market transactions because there's a shortage of inventory. So what they're doing, they're being proactive. They're going out and finding the properties. These are properties that are not on the market, and they're finding the properties for their buyers. And let me just describe how that ties into Ford.
You bet. Sure.
First of all, you know, I'm often asked, what drives the real estate market? And a lot of people think it's the economy. If you have a hot economy, you'll have a hot real estate market. I say, well, wait a minute. Last year we had a recession, and yet we had a hot market. We believe what drives the real estate market is change. Okay, if there's a lot of change in people's lives, pain and pleasure, it's going to affect their real estate, and that's what happened last year. So here's a typical conversation around Ford. So I called somebody up and I say, hey, this is Larry, and you know, I was just thinking about you guys. I thought I'd reach out. I just wanted to see how you're doing. Are you guys, is everybody healthy? Are you safe? You know, tell me about how's the family. And a typical response I get right now is, well, we're all safe and healthy, but we're homeschooling the kids. Frankly, our kitchen has turned into a classroom. We're a little bit crowded here.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm here in some pain. We talk about that for a bit. I go on to occupation. Tell me, are you able to work? You know, what are you doing? Have you been furloughed? Are you still working? Well, I'm working, but I'm working from home. And it's a little odd because I don't have a home office, so I'm camped out in the bedroom. And the kids have taken over the kitchen. I'm hearing some more pain. How about recreation? What are you guys doing for fun? Well, not much. We can't go to the games. We can't go to the restaurants. We can't go to the health club. We can't go to church. about all we can do is go for a walk, and we're not in a very walkable neighborhood.
Mm.
And so I'm hearing a lot of pain right now. And so that would lead then to the dreams question, which is this: if you could wave a magic wand and have the home that would really work for you, or live in anywhere, tell me about that.
Mm.
And almost they'll then feed it back to me. Well, we'd have a larger house. I'd have a private office. We'd have maybe a place I could work out. We would be in a more walkable neighborhood. And so that's magic question number one, which
So
is,
good.
if you could wave a magic wand and have the home of your dreams, tell me about it.
Yep.
Okay? Magic question number two then is, well, let me ask you this. If I could find a home like that, actually, magic question number two first would be, with today's low interest rates, have you thought about doing something sooner than later?
Perfect. Yep.
And and usually what they'll say is yes, but we've been online, we've looked around. There's not much to buy out there. I mean, there's not much inventory. We're not sure how we would do that. How would we sell our house and find a house? And if we sell our house, we're worried we can't get one. And
totally.
At that point, it's tempting to get into all the mechanics of how that would work.
Sure.
I would recommend that you not discuss the mechanics. Just go on to question number three, which is this. Well, if I could find you a home that meets what you just described to me, would you like to take a look at it?
So good.
And they'll say, well, yeah, but how would that work? We're not really in the market. I know you're not in the market. That's okay. You don't have to buy, but you always need to look.
Totally.
And there's no harm in looking. And what you've just done is move them into step one of the 4 steps of the buying process. Step one is curiosity. They go from curiosity to interest, to desire, to commitment. And if you want to help them, you've got to help them get into the first step, which is curiosity. There's no harm in looking. Let's go out and look. You don't have to buy, but you always need to look.
So good, Larry. And the curiosity step, that's really interesting. If I've heard you say that before, if it's in the book, I don't recall. But the curiosity step is an interesting one right now, because one of the things that we've been spending a lot of time on, Larry, at Building Champions is, and we used to just coach the mortgage industry for years. And now we're very diversified in pharmaceuticals and manufacturing and restaurants and healthcare and just tons of other industries. Man, a year into this thing, people are fried, and we have clinical depression at an all-time high, clinical anxiety at an all-time high, suicide rates at an all-time high, obesity rates at an all-time high. And the sliver of the market that we're dealing with in real estate, I think I just read recently that just under half of all loans that will be underwritten this year will be for millennials. Wow. That's the group that is most affected by all of those issues that I just mentioned. Millennials are most affected. So what that means is we've got people who are stressed, stretched, concerned about their parents, concerned about their grandparents, angry about masks, want people to wear 3 masks, everything in between, right? It's just, it's a crazy time, man. So when you deal with that curiosity step by actually opening a door they've closed, most people have just closed that door like, yeah, now's not the time.
Yeah.
You've now opened a door, and you've got people starting to think. And what we know for sure with human psychology is a little bit of hope is a really good thing. I mean, ask John McCain, right? Ask anybody that's been, imprisoned or incarcerated. Man, a little bit of hope makes all the difference. And that's what you're doing with these people in that curiosity step.
Yep. Yeah, the builders are masters of how to draw people into curiosity with their model homes or their home shows, and people go by and, well, we're not really in the market for a home, but let's go in and take a look. And they go from curiosity to interest to desire to commitment. And so that's really important to understand that process. And how do you get people into the first step? And the other thing I found, Bill, is that when they're in the desire stage, when they find a home that they love, and then the question comes up, okay, what about the mechanics? Okay, how are they going to buy this house? Okay, they sell theirs first. Do they try to buy? Can they buy on a contingency? Probably not. What I have found is this: once they're in the desire stage, they find a way to solve it. And that makes total sense. I don't have to solve it for them. 75% of the time, they'll solve it. And it's because they have amazing amounts of equity. I don't know if you saw the John Burns report that came out, John Burns Consulting.
Mm-mm.
His report says 58% of the households in the United States have 60% equity or more.
60?
60% equity or more. 42% own their homes free and clear. They're sitting on, in the mortgage industry, we call it tappable equity. They are sitting
Yep.
on trillions and trillions of dollars of tappable equity.
Yep.
They have experienced 10 years of rocket appreciation.
Oh yeah.
And they have the resources if they really find something that they love. Okay, now you're not going to have this conversation if it's hypothetical and they're not in the curiosity stage or have moved to desire. You know, one of the rules of ninja selling is you never start discussing how you do a transaction or quote close somebody unless they're in the desire stage.
Nice.
So you want to get them into curiosity, help them find a home that they love, they could see themselves in, and they'll solve it most of the time.
Yeah. Oh, Larry, you are such a truth speaker. I love listening to you, and I know you've heard this a lot, but I'm just reacting to you live. I love the logic behind what are proven frameworks that have developed in your mind and around your and through your team over the years that you see again and again and again. You know, so often we see gurus and so-called experts in the business, and you know, I get it. I mean, somebody gets super fired up about search engine optimization, like it's all about search engine optimization or, you know, click funnels, and it's like, fair enough. I mean, you're right, but the thing that you're talking about right now is people.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. When you talk about people who are living in homes, who are living in houses, which are their homes, which they have largely outgrown. I mean, Tony and I sit here in a house that we've been in probably 10 years. It's, I don't know, a little over 3,000 square feet. It's a lot more real estate than we need. It's 2-story. I mean, you know, we're not too far away from thinking, yeah, 1 story is really probably a pretty good idea. But I'm telling you, man, I'm just not in curiosity stage. Like we need to enter into that stage. But one of the things that we know, when I first got into real estate, you'll remember this, we used to quote for years that people would move every 5 to 7 years. Like that was one of the, just like, that was like a law of gravity. Like, cool. If I'm in real estate and I know people move every 5 to 7 years, my job is to buy the brain cells so that when they think of real estate, they think of me, however you get there. Well, the most recent article I saw in the Wall Street Journal is we're now at 13 years.
Yeah.
13 years. And to your point, sitting on that amount of equity, I would argue, people have heard me say this before, Larry, but I would argue that we have a responsibility. This is more than just, these are techniques and strategies that I need to learn. Yeah, that's true. But I believe an underlying driver for us in the real estate industry in particular should be, I have a responsibility. There are people right now who are living in a more stressful environment than they need to. We could make it easier for them. They could live in that neighborhood where they could go for walks at night. They could live in a home where they have maybe even 2 home offices. They could live in a home where they could have a workout area. They just don't see that. Instead, what Quicken is saying is, you should pay your mortgage down and convert to a 15-year mortgage. And there's a lot of wisdom to that. Like, I get that. But there's another way, right? There's another play here to at least consider.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned it's interesting, the mindset, and the importance of that as far as the stress people are experiencing right now. And in Ninja, we teach that, you know, your success keys are your mindset, your skill set, and your actions. And so having a strategy or habits to keep yourself positive on a daily basis, very, very important, I think, right now in this market. Yeah.
Something you just did, well, you just said whatever it was that I didn't get because you went through it quickly. It comes because of your familiarity with the content in Ninja Selling. And I'm just reminded of, like, if I talk to Navy SEALs or Army Rangers, they talk about things like shoot, move, and communicate. They talk about slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And these things just rattle off, standard operating procedures rattle off their heads. When I was flying years ago, I would fall asleep at night running emergency procedures through my head, because if you're flying a single engine airplane, which I was, and the engine quits, you are now involved in one activity. and it's called landing, right? So you'd better be good at that moment. And so I could rattle that stuff off for the longest time, even when I wasn't actively flying. And I want people to recognize what they just heard from you is that, yes, you're the author. Yes, you've created this training. But Larry, if I'm in a business that requires me to, in a moment of opportunity, as I'm talking to somebody, and maybe I'm not even calling into my database, maybe I just run into somebody at the grocery store with a mask on and we're having a conversation, or we're at a soccer game, or we're at church, depending on where you are in the country, and something opens up. When those opportunities occur, I need to be prepared to open those conversations and begin to find out where these people are. So I'm going to say once again, not only should you buy the book, but in my opinion, well, I think they should go through your training. And the beautiful thing I know about Ninja Selling now is that you also have a version for the mortgage industry, correct?
We don't. A lot of the lenders are using our book. Interestingly, now in our live training, and we're back now, starting back up in our live training. We were training about 1,000 students a month.
Wow.
In live training in our 4-day course. And about 25% of the class would be outside of real estate.
Got it.
And what's interesting, you mentioned earlier some of the, obviously, lenders, a big group that comes. But at the last class I taught, we had a gentleman there from Sarasota, Florida, who sells private jets.
Wow.
So he's an airplane salesman, a jet
salesman. Brilliant.
We had another guy from San Diego who sells yachts.
Oh, my goodness.
We had a young woman from California who sells cars. She's the #1 car salesman in her dealership. Sells high-end Lexus.
So fantastic.
So, it applies. It'll apply across the board.
Yeah, in those examples, I mean, as a guy who used to sell airplanes, I can relate to that one. And we have coached yacht brokers, so I sort of know their world. And the car business is the one I always use, and I don't know if you get into this in your training or not, but it's not a fair brush to paint that industry with, but everybody sort of understands okay, have you ever pulled up in front of a car dealership? You immediately know that your car is being scrutinized as you get out of the car and you walk up towards it, and you see 3 guys or women standing out in front, smoking, right? Somebody puts a cigarette out. Hey, you're up, and the up person's like, hi, what's it going to take to put you in the car of your dreams today? And everybody does what you do. Everybody laughs at that because there's familiarity to that. And I know it's a horrible mischaracterization of an industry, but it's an industry that's having a hard time shaking that image, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in this business right now, or any industry, to Larry's point, and you need to do a better job of connecting with people, listening to them, finding out what their hunger is, learning what it is that they're interested in, how would you suggest that somebody find out a bit more about the live training? Because if you're starting to open that up, are you doing virtual training as well, or are you just waiting until you can get people in classrooms again?
Bill, we do both. What we found is that our 4-day course is a transformational learning type course. And that one is difficult to deliver online. We do have some online classes, 1-hour classes, 3-hour classes that we do online.
Great.
The best way to check that out is to go to ninjaselling.com.
Okay.
And click on events.
Great.
And there's a list there for folks.
I really strongly, I'm looking off cameras, I'm looking at your website, but that's what I would strongly recommend that people do. If there's one thing that I know for sure, so you'll appreciate this. I told you 30 years ago I used to wear a gold jacket. Right. I worked for Century 21. If you've read my book, White Collar Warrior, you've heard some of my stories in there, but my best man at my wedding was kind of my surrogate dad. And his name was Harold Dyke, and he was our director of training, a phenomenal human being, great guy. You would love Harold. And I remember going to, I don't know if you remember this with Century 21, but they had a training curriculum called 2-in-1. And the idea was to create 2 listings and 1 sale per month. Like that was sort of the minimum standard as a goal. And so I would see, 50 to 100 people, because if you remember 30 years ago, Century 21 was sort of built on this funnel of we do a pre-licensing school. We maximize on that on January because that's when people are tired of their jobs and they want to get into real estate, right? And so then they go to 2-in-1 training. And I just remember sometime walking into that course with Harold teaching it, and I'd say, don't you get don't you get frustrated by the fact that so few of these people actually do what needs to be done? And he, in his wise way, he said, I'm reminded of a story written in the antiquities about the sower of the seed. And he said, my job is just to sow seed. Some of it falls on the thorny soil and it gets choked out. Some of it lands on the rocks and the birds take it. And some of it hits fertile soil. That's my job. So as a trainer, I'm sure you can relate to that not everybody, they could go through the training, read the book, quote you, and still not use it. But what I know for sure is there are people right now that are listening to you, that are watching you, and this is resonating with them, Larry. This is touching something in them where they recognize, I need to get better at that. And so I'm telling you right now as a coach, capitalize on that intentionality that you feel. Order the book right now. Go to that website. Get into one of these courses. You need to improve your skills, you guys. There's a flight to quality right now, and if you don't define yourself, if the buyer and seller, if people don't see you as a quality solution, then you're just going to get lost in the noise. And this is not a season to be lost in the noise. And by the way, the last thing I'll say about real estate and mortgage is I joke with people all the time when they're complaining to me about what they're doing. And I'm sure you've seen this for years. And what I try and point out to them is like, come on, you are not wearing a blue vest at Walmart. Like, you have options. You can create an amazing life in this industry. So why dabble and settle for so much less when you could be all in and create an amazing life with options and choices and impact that is far beyond what most people can do?
I love your all in, Bill. And what you reminded me of is this. You mentioned that you sprinkle the seeds and some of them take and some of them don't. One of the things we found in Ninja is that a very high adoption rate, much higher than sales training. And I think it's one of the unique things about Ninja. And the reason we have such a high adoption rate is that we've handled the greatest fear that most salespeople have. Most salespeople that I train, their greatest fear when they come into our class is a fear of rejection.
Sure, 100%.
They're afraid that to ask the closing questions or whatever, because they're going to, the client's going to reject them, say no.
You bet.
So our strategy is you never put yourself in the position of being rejected. And one way to do that is to never engage. But I've never met.
Good point. I think it's called avoidance. Yeah.
You've got to engage, but you're going to engage in a way that you never put your client in the position of feeling pressure. Because when they feel pressure is when they feel like they either want to get away from you or they want to put up the wall. Or if in the end they have to say no. So our approach is very soft, and it's about asking questions, identifying pain and pleasure, creating a roadmap for them and our basic mission, as we say, is our goal in Ninja is to help people get from the life they have to the life they dream about.
Nice.
It's not to sell them something. It's to help them get from the life they have to the life they dream about. So we've got to identify what they're praying for. What are they dreaming about? And, it's kind of like when you have that philosophy, it changes the energy.
Oh, totally.
So for example, if two realtors are going to go out to list a house, and one of them is a traditional realtor, I ask them, okay, what's your goal when you go out to list a house? They'll always say the same thing. Well, my goal is to get the listing.
Sure.
Okay. If I ask a ninja, what is your goal when you go out on that listing appointment? They'll say, well, my goal is to help them get from the life they have to the life they dream about. Is there a different energy that the client feels with that? Absolutely.
You bet. Yeah, so I love that. My second book title, working title, as we like to say, is Closing the Gaps. So the big letter will be Closing the Gaps, and then the subtitle will be Between Intention and Execution.
Wow.
So it's the exact same thing that you're talking about, right? How do I help people move from the life that they have to the life that they dream about? For me, while that's sort of paramount, it often becomes a lot more granular, right? In coaching, it's like, so let's talk about that in your business. Let's talk about that in your financial account. Let's talk about that in your marriage. Let's talk about that in travel, whatever those things might be. Well, Larry, I mean, clearly I'm a fan, right? So I'm just fanboying all over you here, and I can't not do that. But man, if somebody's listening to you right now, and once again, I'm just going to say it, if something stirs in your heart or in your belly and you're like, this makes sense to me, run towards it, you guys. Don't move to the next thing today until you take advantage of at least grabbing the book, and then promise me that you'll read it, because you'll be grateful that you did. And then hit me up, like, let me know what you thought of that and what you took from that and what you're going to do. But if you're really committed to taking it to the next level, then I would absolutely go to Larry's site and look at getting involved in the Ninja program, because to me, it's just, I think it's the best training that's out there, and I'm so grateful for you and for what you do.
Bill, I just can't thank you enough for your endorsement. I mean, you're huge. Having those words come from you means the world to me. So thank you very much.
My pleasure, brother. My honor. Well, buddy, any closing thoughts as you think about real estate agents in this pandemic time, this odd time with, I mean, maybe one last quick thing we might talk about is like the iBuyer platform. You know, it's such a different way to look at, if we're looking at non-contingent transactions, the iBuyer play is something to consider, is it not?
You know, I would recommend that real estate people explore and get involved in iBuyer. And don't look at it as a threat to you. Don't stick your head in the sand. Embrace it. Be proactive. iBuyers can provide a solution for you as far as how you unlock a market. And most of the iBuyers will work with realtors. They'll pay you referral fees. You can make it happen. Highly recommend that you do that. If I can mention perhaps maybe another book that just popped into my head, there's a book called Secrets of Top Selling Agents, and it's by Joe Sesso, Sesso. He's got two books out. They're both the same title, but different subtitles, but this is the latest one.
Okay.
He interviews top producing realtors. I'm in there. There's a chapter on ninja selling in the book. But in that book, there in chapter 10, there's a chapter on how to work with iBuyers.
Oh, nice.
And it's written by a gentleman from Arizona who is a rock star. His team averages a house sold a day.
Oh, my goodness.
And they have for over 10 years.
Wow.
In fact, his name is Kenny Klaus.
Oh, so that's hysterical. I have a message in my phone right now from Kenny. Kenny and I know each other well. I was assuming you were going this direction, and the great thing about Kenny, here's my favorite part about Kenny. I never remember if it's FedEx or UPS, but you remember he was a UPS driver, I think it was.
Right.
And he had a route, and he kept watching yard signs go up while he's making right turns right around this market, and he said, you know, I'll bet there's more that I could do. And that he would tell you, I have no formal education. I just saw an opportunity, and he has gradually grown his influence there. And I mean, that guy is an amazing example of what's possible in this business.
Yeah,
so thank you for calling that out. He is all in, man.
And
he totally is.
Got a chapter in that book that's amazing on how he works with iBuyers.
Nice. Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. So that's a solid suggestion. So that's Secrets of Top Selling Agents, and it's the second volume?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great suggestion. Great resource, Larry. Well, my friend, it is always a pleasure to talk to you. Let's do this sooner than once every 3 years, because I think you've always got phenomenal wisdom and content to share with people. And I'm just grateful for you, Larry. Thank you for all that you do.
Well, Bill, thanks for the difference you're making, and you inspire the world with what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.